The red sky of Karzoon hung low and heavy, glowing like a wound that never healed. And beneath it stood the great stone arena where the Zarathi Empire gathered to enjoy fear as entertainment. Their tall, armored bodies crowding the stands while cruel laughter echoed across ancient black towers. And into this place of mockery came a small human girl named Lena Morales, only 11 years old. Dragged forward by chains that burned her wrists as she limped across the stone floor with a badly injured leg. Her clothes torn, her face pale, yet her eyes still open and aware. Because even after losing her father during the destruction of the human colony ship Aurora Dawn, even after weeks of fear and hunger, something inside her refused to fully break. And the Zarathi noticed this and laughed harder, calling her weak and useless, mocking humanity for daring to exist in a galaxy ruled by stronger species. And for them, this moment was a celebration because today was the day of sacrifice, the day they fed the dragon of Karzoon, an ancient creature that slept deep beneath the arena, feared by all yet controlled through old runes and rituals. And normally criminals or rebels were thrown into the pit. But today the Zarathi wanted something crueler, something that would remind every slave and enemy watching that resistance was pointless. So they chose a wounded human child, pushing Lena toward the edge of the deep pit while thousands of alien voices shouted and laughed. And as she looked down into the darkness, she felt heat rising from below and heard a slow breathing sound that shook the ground like a giant heart beating inside the planet. Fear filled her chest and her hands trembled, but she did not cry, because she remembered her father's words about humans being strong not because they were the biggest or the fastest, but because they endured. And when the Zarathi commander raised his claw and gave the order, Lena was shoved forward and fell into the pit, hitting the stone floor hard as pain exploded through her injured leg and forced a scream from her throat. But she bit it back quickly, refusing to give her captors the joy of hearing her beg. And she dragged herself across the ancient ground, every movement slow and painful, the air growing hotter and thicker until the darkness in front of her began to move. And then two massive golden eyes opened, filling the pit with firelight, revealing the dragon as it rose from its long sleep, its body vast and covered in black and silver scales, wings folded like mountains, smoke curling from its nostrils. And the Zarathi cheered from above because this was what they wanted to see. The monster obeying, the sacrifice accepted. But something unexpected happened when the dragon lowered its head and looked at Lena, because instead of seeing food or fear, it saw a small wounded being still holding on to life, still trying to crawl forward, still whispering words even when death felt close. And when Lena spoke softly, saying she did not want to die, the dragon heard her not as noise but as thought, as truth. And inside its ancient mind memories, stirred of a long-forgotten time when another species had stood before it with courage rather than cruelty. And those memories carried the face of humans, and anger began to burn in the dragon's chest. Not the wild anger of a beast, but the deep, slow anger of something that had watched injustice repeat for thousands of years. And as the Zarathi laughed above, unaware of the change happening below, the dragon's eyes burned brighter, its body tensed, and a low growl rolled through the pit, shaking the arena walls, signaling that the sacrifice had not gone as planned. And in that moment, as the dragon placed its massive body between Lena and the world, something shifted in the balance of power, because the Zarathi believed fear ruled the galaxy. But they did not understand that courage, even in a wounded child, could awaken forces older and stronger than any empire. And far away among the stars, unseen by the laughing aliens, a faint human signal began to spread, carrying word of what had been done. And the universe quietly moved toward war. Captain Elias Ward stood rigid on the bridge of the battleship HMS Resolute, his eyes scanning the holographic displays that, showed the scarred remnants of human colonies and drifting wreckage in the border systems, while a faint, broken signal crackled through the communications array, carrying the desperate voice of a child in danger. A human girl named Lena, who had been captured by the Zerathi Empire and thrown as a sacrifice to the ancient dragon of Karzoon. And as Ward listened, his jaw tightened and a cold fire of determination lit within him. Because humanity had lost ships, planets, and soldiers before, but this crossed a line no one could ignore, the line of innocence of a child in need. And he gave the order to assemble the fleets, to mobilize every available ship, every pilot, and every Marine capable of fighting, knowing full well that the Zerathi forces were superior in numbers, with massive dreadnoughts, planetary cannons, and fleets of agile fighters, but also knowing that humans had something they could not calculate, a stubborn will, adaptability, and courage that refused to bow. And as the HNS Resolute leapt into hyperspace toward Karzoon, the rest of the human coalition followed, hundreds of ships streaking across the darkness, engines glowing blue like streaks of hope cutting through despair, while the Zerathi scrambled their defenses, activating orbital weapon platforms, and launching swarms of insectoid warships that fired green plasma beams which lit up the black void, each impact rocking human vessels, tearing hulls, and testing the courage of their crews. Yet the humans adapted quickly, rotating hull plating when plasma struck, weaving unpredictable flight patterns to confuse enemy targeting systems, manually operating weapons when automated systems failed, and through the chaos of space and destruction, their determination never wavered. Because they fought not just for territory but for the life of a child, for the honor of their species, for a principle that even death could not destroy. And on the planet below, Lena struggled against pain and exhaustion, dragging herself behind the dragon's massive leg, her small body trembling but her mind alert, while the dragon, sensing something unfamiliar and powerful in her, stood as her shield, its immense body blocking the heat of the arena, its golden eyes watching the Zerathi with ancient judgment. And when the dragon lowered its head toward Lena, speaking in a voice felt in the mind rather than the ears, she whispered of the cruelty she had witnessed, the injuries, the loss, and the fear, and the dragon understood, recalling memories of encounters long past where humans had faced impossible odds with courage rather than surrender. And its massive wings lifted slowly, filling the pit with shadow and smoke as it rose fully, the earth trembling beneath its weight. And the Zerathi crowd, once filled with laughter, went silent in horror as their carefully controlled ritual failed. Because the dragon no longer obeyed them, it was no longer a tool of fear, but a living force with judgment, anger, and power, and with a roar that shattered stone and sent shockwaves through the arena. The dragon unleashed fire hotter than any natural flame, breaking chains, crumbling towers, and scattering Zerathi soldiers who had never expected rebellion from a beast they considered theirs, while far above, the human fleet broke through the enemy blockade. Laser fire and missiles colliding with alien ships, explosions tearing through metal. Yet the humans pushed forward with precise maneuvers, coordinating attacks between ships, fighters darting in between the largest vessels, Marines preparing to deploy in drop pods, knowing that they were humanity's only chance to save the girl. And despite losses, despite damage and chaos, their resilience and ingenuity turned the tide. Because every time the Zerathi pressed forward, humans responded unpredictably, repairing on the fly, striking from angles the aliens had not considered, and exploiting weaknesses that only human intuition could find. And while the battle raged in space, the dragon continued to rise, massive wings spreading across the pit, smoke curling from its nostrils, fire lighting up the arena like a second sun, and Lena, watching in awe and fear, realized that the being that had once seemed a monster was now her protector, and that the humans above were racing against time to reach her before the Zerathi could regain control. And Captain Ward, observing the surface through sensors, saw the dragon standing between the child and the world, an immense symbol of strength and defiance, and he felt a quiet pride, knowing that this was the moment humanity would be remembered for, a moment where courage, strategy, and unwavering determination came together against overwhelming odds. And as the fleets moved in, coordinating with the dragon below, the universe began to see something it had not expected. Humans did not wait to be saved. They fought, they adapted, they endured, and even when the enemy seemed insurmountable, their will carried them forward, because a human child's life was worth every risk, every maneuver, every sacrifice, and in that moment, the dragon recognized the bond forming between itself and the humans, an alliance born not of convenience but of shared courage. And the Zerathi, once smug in their dominance, realized their empire was facing a force far stronger than any weapon or fleet, because determination, hope, and courage could not be measured by firepower. And as space and ground battles intertwined, fire and steel colliding in spectacular chaos, Lena felt the first stirrings of hope, sensing that she was not alone, that the humans above were coming, and that the dragon, ancient and powerful beyond comprehension, had chosen to fight for her, and in that shared resolve, a plan began to form unspoken between human and dragon. A coordinated strike that would not only save her life but challenge the Zerathi Empire itself, and the roar of the dragon mingled with the thunder of distant explosions, signaling to every human in the fleet and every soldier on the surface that this was a fight that could be won, a battle where courage, ingenuity, and heart could turn the impossible into reality. And as the first human dropships entered the atmosphere, and the dragon's shadow spread across the burning arena, Lena felt a surge of strength in her small body, realizing that the courage her father had spoken of was not gone, that humans did not break easily, and that today, humanity was answering the call, ready to face overwhelming odds, ready to fight not just for a colony or a planet, but for life, for hope, and for the belief that no matter the enemy or the darkness, humans would rise, adapt, and endure. The final battle for Karzun erupted like a storm of fire and steel, with the Zerathi scrambling in fear as their living god, the dragon, had turned against them, and their panic spread through every level of the arena and across the planet. For the ancient creature that had been their weapon and their servant now moved with a purpose of its own, shielding the small human child. Lena, with its massive body, while above the planet, human dropships cut through the smoky sky, their engines blazing as Marines prepared to descend into chaos, weapons ready, hearts pounding with determination, knowing that the fate of a single child and the honor of humanity were at stake. And as the dragon's roar shook the ground and lit the sky with fire hotter than molten rock, alien soldiers fell back in terror, towers and machines melting or collapsing beneath the heat, while human fighters streaked through the air, dodging plasma beams, coordinating with the dragon's movements, striking at enemy positions that had once seemed untouchable. And the humans pressed forward relentlessly, charging through the worst of alien defenses, because every loss, every burn, every explosion only fueled their resolve to protect one of their own, to demonstrate that humanity never abandoned the weak, even when faced with overwhelming odds. And Lena, crawling through the rubble behind the dragon, watched in awe as the creature that had once been a nightmare now became a living shield, its wings spreading to block attacks, its eyes glowing with intelligence and judgment. And she felt a strange connection to it, as if it understood her pain and fear. And in that moment, the humans on the surface, led by Captain Ward and his elite strike team, fought with unmatched courage, their bullets, plasma grenades, and explosives cutting through the alien lines, clearing a path to the arena while above. The human fleet engaged the Zerathi in space with relentless coordination. Fighters weaving through enemy swarms, carriers launching waves of reinforcements, and capital ships trading fire with massive alien dreadnoughts, their shields flaring and systems straining under impact. But every human crew knew their mission: protect the child, save humanity's honor, and defy the alien empire that thought itself untouchable. And as the dragon took to the sky, its massive wings flapping and leaving trails of smoke and fire, it became a living weapon that tore through enemy ships and installations, crushing armored vehicles beneath its claws and spitting streams of flame that melted alien defenses. While Lena's small voice called out, giving hope to every human fighting below, and in those cries the humans found renewed energy, surging forward with a unity born of desperation and courage, a force impossible to measure. And the Zerathi, seeing their empire crumble around them, realized that their arrogance had been fatal, that a wounded human child and the beings who chose to fight for her could change the course of the war. And as the final Zerathi command tower fell, crumbling under combined fire from human marines and the dragon, the planet shook, fire and dust rising like a storm, while survivors on both sides paused to witness the impossible: that the dragon, once a tool of terror, had become a symbol of alliance and protection, aligning itself with the humans in defiance of its former masters. And Lena, exhausted but alive, was finally lifted from the ground by human medics, her tear-streaked face lighting up when she saw the human soldiers who had fought across impossible odds just to reach her. And she looked up at the dragon, massive and powerful, yet gentle in its gesture as it lowered its head, and she whispered words of gratitude, which the dragon understood in a way beyond language, acknowledging her courage and humanity. And while the battle was over, its lessons were clear. Humans did not bow to fear, did not break in the face of cruelty, and their courage could inspire even ancient beings to stand with them. And Captain Ward, looking down at Lena and the dragon, felt a sense of pride and awe, knowing that the human spirit had once again proven stronger than any empire or weapon, that determination, ingenuity, and empathy had turned what seemed like inevitable tragedy into victory. And as the dust settled, the survivors looked around at the devastated arena, the crumbled towers, the burned-out ships, and the scattered bodies, understanding that sacrifice had been made, courage displayed, and the universe had witnessed the rising of humanity in a way that would echo for generations, because the story of Lena and the dragon would travel across galaxies, a tale of defiance, of hope, and of the strength found in even the smallest of humans. And the dragon did not return to sleep, choosing instead to remain nearby, a silent guardian whose presence reminded every human that they were not alone, that courage and honor could forge alliances beyond species. And that day, the Zerathi Empire learned a lesson they would never forget: do not underestimate humans, for even in the face of death and impossible odds, they will rise, fight, and inspire. And when humans stand together, even the oldest, most powerful beings will stand with them, because the universe had finally seen the truth of human resilience. And it was a force that could not be destroyed, controlled, or feared away. And in the quiet moments after the storm, as medics carried Lena to safety and soldiers regrouped, the dragon's wings casting a massive shadow over the battlefield, every human felt it, a mix of relief, pride, and the understanding that they had changed the course of history, that a child's life had awakened courage in an ancient being, and that humanity's place in the galaxy was not as weak prey, but as a species whose heart, determination, and unwillingness to surrender could stand alongside the greatest powers in existence, and that no matter how dark the odds, humanity would endure, fight, and protect what mattered most. Because they were humans and they never gave up.